Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about multiplying and dividing fractions. And if we look at the cover page of the table of contents for our review package, we see that there's a T there, which tells us that these notes are going to be in the form of a toolkit page. So I'm just going to circle that. It's actually one toolkit page. So we'll pop over to the toolkits. Now, this toolkit page, this is actually my original fractions toolkit page, and it's so it has adding and subtracting on it as well. So I'm just going to fill this in because I do want you to have this page, and my hope is that at some point this year or next year you won't need the page where we go into detail on adding and on finding the common denominator, and this will be enough of a reminder for you. That's kind of the plan. So I'm going to put, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this triangle, or this circle, sorry, in half, and I'm going to cut this one in quarters. And I'm going to put a plus sign right here. And this fraction here is, I'm going to do this one in blue, and this is 1/2. So I'm going to color in 1/2 of my circle. Okay. And in red, I'm going to color in 1/4 of this circle. I'm going to write that in red. The colors here are, I think they're important on this. So if you can do things in the same color as I do, at least, yeah, at least for this one, this is important. Okay, so that is the same as, well, if I take my 1/2, I can actually make that 2/4, right? If I were to cut it like that and then color in this piece and color in this piece, I have the same amount, right? If I have pizza that I've cut in half and then I cut one of the pieces in half again, I guess this is a small pizza, I have the same amount of pizza, right? I have now 2/4 of a pizza, and I still have my original 1/4 that I had in red. So if I add those together, I have my denominator, which I'm doing in purple, because if you combine red and blue, you get purple. I'm going to cut this into quarters. I have my 2 blue quarters, plus I have my 1 red quarter, which I should color in. So in total, I have 3/4. Okay, so this is just showing how you do the common denominators and why you're doing it. You're basically cutting your pieces so that they're all the same. Okay, and then you can add them together. Okay, let's do multiplying fractions. Now, actually, multiplying fractions is way easier than adding fractions. Okay, when we multiply fractions, and I'm going to do this in red and blue as well, we go top times top, and we do bottom times bottom. Or I guess I should say numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator, but that seems like a lot of work to say. All right, so my fraction is going to be something times something equals something equals something. Okay, so my original fraction, I've got 1/2, so I'm going to do the numerators in red and the denominators in blue, and I'm going to multiply this by 1/4. Okay, so my rule is top times top, so my numerator now is going to be 1 times 1, which equals 1, and the denominator is 2 times 4, which equals 8. So my answer is 1/8. But I want to make sense of this as well, okay? So remember that of means times when we talk about math things, okay? So if I say 1/2 times 1/4, that means it's the same thing as 1/2 of 1/4. So if I take my my circle and I color in 1/4 of it, which is hard to do with highlighting pens on this thing, and I cut that in half, because I take half of my 1/4. So here's my half, or my 1/4 rather, and I'm going to take half of it. I can tell that that's 1/8 of my circle. Okay, so that's how the multiplying works. It means I'm taking half of 1/4. Okay, top times top, bottom times bottom. And for at least the first couple of questions that you do in the practice, I want you to actually write this out, because that's how you remember it, is if you write out top times top, bottom times bottom. If you just write it out before you do it, don't just do it in your head, that's going to help you, okay? When we divide fractions, it's just like multiplying, except there's an extra step involved. And that is we invert and multiply. So we flip, and we flip the second fraction, because that's the one we're dividing, we're dividing by that one. And so we change it into a multiplication question. So if my original question is 1/2 divided by 1/4, that becomes 1/2, and I'm going to change this to times 4/1. Okay, and 4/1 is called the reciprocal of 1/4. The reciprocal just means you switch places, you flip them. Okay, so now this is a multiplication. So this is 1 times 4 over 2 times 1, which is 4/2, which is 2. So 1/2 divided by 1/4 equals 2. And that makes sense, because when you're dividing, you're doing how many can you take away? It's repeated subtraction. So how many, and I'm going to draw my quarters. Either I can say, can I take away from, or fit into, because that's a little easier to draw. How many of those fit into if I have half a circle? How many of these quarters can I fit into that? Well, I can fit 2, right? I can do this, and I can do this, and I can color that in yellow. And I've got 1/4 here, and I've got 1/4 here, so my answer is 2. Okay, so you get the same answer. So, but obviously, you're not going to spend your life drawing circles and dots. You're going to do it algebraically or numerically, like we did in the first. So the rule for division is invert and multiply. So you flip the second fraction, and then it becomes a multiplication question. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to do cross-reducing, and this might actually be new. For most students, I find that it is new, but I include it in the review section because it's really, really valuable, and I want you to be doing this anytime you're working with fractions, okay? So cross-reducing is a way to do to multiply and reduce fractions without a calculator, because it keeps the numbers small, okay? So the first thing we have to do, this is a division question. So before I do anything, the very first thing I have to do is change from mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay, so 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. I've got 10/7 divided by 1 times 8 is 8, plus 7 is 15/8. Oops, let me draw that a little better. Okay. And the second step is to invert and multiply. So my 10 over 7 is going to stay just like it was, but I'm going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and this is going to become 8 over 15. Okay. And then I could do this. I'm going to do this down at the bottom here, but I don't write this down because this is the old way of doing it. So I've got 10, whoops. Oh, I hate it when I say one thing and write another one. So I've got 10 over 7 times 8 over 15. So this becomes 80 over, I guess I should know what 7 times 15 is, 105. And now I have to reduce this, right? So I'm going to divide this by 5 and divide this by 5. So this reduces to 16 over 21. Okay, but we're not going to do it that way. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to look back up here, and I'm going to write this down over here. You're going to say or think, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, is there anything in the top that has a common factor with something on the bottom? And I notice that 10 and 15 can both be divided by 5. So I'm going, well, in my head, 10 divided by 5 equals 2, and 15 divided by 5 equals 3. So this is what I'm either saying in my head or thinking to myself. What I do on my paper is I'm going to cross out the 10, and I'm saying 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. So this is the cross-reducing. And what I'm left with now is 2 over 7 times 8 over 3, which I can then multiply. This becomes 2 times 8 over 7 times 3, which is 16 over 21. Okay, so that's how the cross multiplication works. And I'm going to do another example just to show you how much easier it makes things once you learn it. Now, I know that it's hard when you're learning it, but this is one of those things that is really, really worth learning because it will make life much, much easier for you. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do a bigger question, and you'll see the magic of this because this is really, really awesome. Okay, so first thing I need to do though is change this division here to multiplication. So this is going to become 2 over 7 times 5 over 6, but I'm only changing the 5 over 6. This is the only one I changed. This is multiplication, so this stays as 3 over 8. And this stays as 14 over 15, okay? And now I can cross-reduce anything that's on the top with anything that's on the bottom, okay? So I see a 7 and a 14, so I go, well, 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. And then I'm going to change colors just so you can see where things are happening. 5 and 15. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. And then I've got a 3 and a 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. And I can do one more because I've still got a 2 on the numerator. I go 2 divided by 2 is 1, and I can do 6 divided by 2 is 3. I could have done the 4, would get the same answer, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now this equals, my numerator is 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, and my denominator is 1 times 3 times 4 times 1. So my answer is 1 over 12. Now, I wouldn't normally actually write this bit out unless this got messy. If what I was doing up here got messy, I would totally rewrite it so I can see what I actually have. But in this case, I didn't need to. But I wanted to show you that the process is really the same. We just do some dividing ahead of time. Okay, so that's it for the toolkit. I just want to show you what this question would look like if we did it without cross-reducing. Okay, so, but you don't need to write this down. This is just for you to see. So I have 2 over 7. I still need to make it times 5 over 6 times 3 over 8 times 14 over 15. And then I have to take my calculator and I have to multiply these all together. So I'm going to go 2 times 5 times 3 times 14 is 420. Divided by 7 times 6 times 8 times 15, which is 5,040. So I'm guessing that most of us would not want to do this question without a calculator. And you will be getting questions where you need to do this without a calculator. You will not have access to a calculator for these questions because I want you to show me that you can do it with cross-reducing. Okay, so now if I have this 420 over 5040, I have to reduce it. So, okay, well, I can divide them both by 10. I can see that. So that gets me 42 over 504. And I can divide that by 2, and I can divide that by 2. So I get 21 over 252. And I have no idea what I can divide 252 by. 21 I can divide by 3 and divide by 7, so I'm going to try. Let's try dividing it by 3. So 252 divided by 3. Oh, it's 84. So if I divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3, I get 7 over 84. And if I'm having a good day, I'm going to remember that 84 divides by 7, and I get 12. But wasn't that a whole lot more work? I think it was. Okay, what we basically did when we did the cross-reducing up here is we did all of these divisions before we multiplied things together. Okay, and that's how I want you to do this. Okay, so that's it for the toolkit. Let's go to the review package. So this will be question 13, starting at question 13. So we're going to, these are just multiplication questions. So these questions, I'll do 1 or 2 examples for you. These questions do have like positives and negatives in them. If you find that that is, now you know what, I really want you to do this. So the easiest way I think to do this is to look, well, this is a negative times a negative. My answer is going to be positive. And maybe I'm going to write that positive down there, that plus sign, so I know that I have already looked at what sign my answer is going to be. Okay, if it was negative, it'd be easy. I'd just put a negative there, but sometimes I'm going to put the plus sign anyway. And then this is going to be 7 times 7 over 8 times 5. So it's 49 over 40. Okay, and then a word about reducing. 49 over 40 doesn't reduce, but I could make it an improper or mixed number, which would be 1 and 9 over 40. And for this, I'm going to tell you just check the answer key and see which shape the answer key is in, whether it's 49 over 40 or 1 and 9/40, and just do yours the same way. Okay. And then for question 2 here, remember that you can make any number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Okay. And so you're going to do all of these multiplication questions. Remember, you need to make it into an improper fraction before you can multiply. And when you get to these ones, you're definitely going to want to cross-reduce if you can, because otherwise your numbers are going to get huge. Okay. Some of these you might need a calculator to do the multiplication for, but don't use the fraction button on your calculator or you're just cheating yourself, because you won't have access to that on any test that I give you for fractions. dividing, same thing. Just remember that you need to change it to a multiplication question. So this becomes, it's a negative divided by a negative. My answer is going to be positive. So I'm just going to get rid of that right now, and it's going to be 3 over 10 times 2 over 3. Okay, and I can cross reduce this. So 3 and the 3, that becomes a 1 and a 1. And the 2 and the 10 can both be divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my answer is going to be positive 1 over 5. Okay? All right. Have lots of fun. If you're struggling with this, don't panic. Do what you can, and we can do some more work on it in class when I'm here to help you. All right? Bye.